ye? How are we?
Shawnee, feeling surprisingly good.
Surprisingly good. I mean, 24 hours out from starting almost, I suppose, the Ring of Kerry now. It's Sunday afternoon as we record this one. Ring of Kerry on yesterday. I am red raw right now because I'm an idiot. But apart from that, the body feels very good. And just one of those pretty cool cycles.
Yeah, I agree with the red raw. I put sun cream on my face, my arms, and I was like, oh yeah, fully covered, completely forgot my legs were on show on a bike for 8 hours. So I have nice, juicy red legs for today, but it's absolutely great day. We were blessed with the weather. Like sunburn, okay, that's stupidity, but like a great a great complaint, because I would rather have that little bit of burn than be pissed on all day, miserable, wet socks, wet shoes. It was windy though.
It was very windy. Very windy, hitting up through those hills. Just the wind right at you going, oh, okay, this has gone from a leisurely cycle to it's going to be a little bit of a challenge trying to get on top of these hills. For me, the weird thing was this felt, obviously, 170K is 170K. But because I did it before, it felt shorter because I knew what was coming. I knew, okay, I had a rough idea. Here's where the hills are. Here's where I'm going to be breaking. I was able to break down a lot easier this year than last year. This was your first time doing a Ring of Kerry. Was there anything we talked about in the podcast last week where you're like, we didn't mention this and we should have mentioned this for the podcast coming up this week?
Sun cream. I know, I had some. That was the annoying part. I had it. I just forgot about my legs. I offered it to you. You said, no, I'm all right.
Yeah, too for school.
While I was putting it on my arms, but no one told me, don't forget about your legs. But absolutely blown away by the amount of people cycling. It was fabulous. Talking to a couple, like, the best part for me was we'd cycle along people and I'd just have a couple of minutes chat and then say goodbye, and then you'd see them again and an hour or two, depending on what way you took your breaks and stuff. Like, it was it was really, really good. Food, I was happy with my nibbles because I like eating all day, every day.
Yeah.
You don't need that much food. In fairness, the food stops are quite substantial.
Yeah.
But it's always good to have. For me, I was giving it to everyone yesterday. You kept calling me a pusher. I was just the isotonic high five into everyone's water. So there is water stops, but that was one of the things, is the isotonic tablets, the absolute godsend, because even people are like, oh, but they already had one. You don't realize how much calories you're burning. You don't realize how much you're sweating, but not sweating, if that makes sense. Like, Aaron, who cycled with us, you could see his t-shirt had the salt in the back, and we were wearing colourful t-shirts and cycling tops, so you couldn't see. Yeah, like that's what you need to be conscious of. You do need to keep the muscles topped up with everything they need, and probably didn't highlight that enough, but the water stations were plentiful to fill the 2 bottles to keep you going.
I'm a bit of a long ranger when it comes to cycling, and like if you look at my Stravas and stuff, I am going for cycles usually myself. I take on the hills around the area, or like a couple weeks ago I did a 60K cycle, and at the end of the 60K cycle I tried to go for a 7K run, and I was really struggling. I'm like, I'm not as fit this year as I was last year. This is going to be a lot more of a struggle. I did 60. I don't know how I'm going to do 170, but it was the first time I really experienced what group cycling was, because I was out my own, whatever, and all of a sudden, like, oh, catch up the back of the wheels, this person, like, I'm doing my own pace, leave me the hell alone, I'm happy out here doing this. And then we end up in a group, and I looked down the watch, and I was doing like 32, 33 kilometers, and it felt like I was doing 17, 18. I was like, what's going on here? You were talking about some Coriolis effect. I don't know what you call it. But it was mad just having that kind of group cycling. And obviously those times you go up the hills, you take on the wind. But in that group, and probably people listen to the podcast going, Sean, you've talked about this before. But I didn't really take it in because I was always out by myself. But it did make a big difference being in different groups.
Yeah, you were doing that stubborn little shit thing for the first for the first 20K. No, I'm going at my own pace. And I was like, shut your mouth and sit on his wheel. And that's what we did. We'd find a group of 10 or so people. We'd get our little group of 5 or 6 in behind them, and we just sit at the back and not pedal. It's absolutely beautiful. And I think once you felt that a couple of times, you were like, wow.
Yeah, it was a big game changer, because, like I said, I've never looked to watch so much and been like, this thing could be broke. It's actually time I'm going too fast here. Instead of like 30 odd, and I just felt like I was just moving the legs, and it did feel real good.
Especially that first 60k, because we had a westerly wind, we were heading west for the first 60k. So for me, I was conscious because we had some first time cycling cyclists with us in terms of this was going to be their longest cycle. I just felt it was important to keep as much energy as possible for the second half so that everyone was enjoying the second half with its ups and downs that you were going to have. I felt if we could cycle as a group using that kind of tactic to the first stop, we then had pretty much a tailwind all the way around to help us, which was true after that stop. We had a couple of crosswinds, and then we had a tailwind all the way into Kenmare, which was beautiful, because we'll get into the stories afterwards, but it was it was really important for that. And we picked up a couple of people on the way as well, who also didn't realize how easy it was to cycle as part of a group. And we had a little lesson where I told everyone to get into single file, and we had about 12 people we'd picked up, and I went out in front and we picked up a bit of a downhill, and I put the hammer down for about 8 kilometers. And we were doing about 42 kilometers an hour. And everyone was like, oh my God, we're going so fast. But the person at the back wasn't even pedaling.
I just straight on down.
Yeah, so it gave everyone an appreciation for it, because I've learned from other people of what it means. On the Mizzen to Malin cycle, I learned exactly what it meant to cycle as part of a group. And if I wanted a break, I needed to be 5th or 6th person in on the left-hand side to be blocked from a crosswind and a front wind. And you could really recover and be dragged along by the group at a probably 8 to 10 kilometers an hour faster than you'd cycle on your own. Like, it's absolutely brilliant.
100%. I haven't said that. I know you're talking a lot of tactics and stuff, but it is still a leisurely cycle. And before the podcast, we talked about doing like these big events and not being prepared for them. People think, oh, you do a lot prepared for 170k, and you don't want to die a death and not cycle at all for the event. But once you've got a bit of cycling under your belt, it is a very manageable thing. So we stopped a fair few times because why not? There's no chip time and nothing. It's a very relaxed event. But some people may, in your book, have taken it too leisurely cycling because they felt like they weren't really pedaling at all, Eric. You know exactly what I'm referring to there. What are your thoughts on electric bikes?
Oh. So it's a charity cycle. It's an inclusive cycle. I get that. And some people, in fairness, want to be included. Stay at home. Do not show up to a charity cycle on an electric bike.
We were going up Malls Gap. I'm sure everyone is sucking wind, and I'd actually just lost.
This is the second time.
The second time, yeah. And I just lost it. Whatever. I was a little bit ahead of that stage. Like, there's no point winning people. The thing was all meet at the top of the hill, and I was like, this lad talking about you. He better start cycling too. Get some training in, and you should be passing me out. I was halfway up, and I was taking a few Insta stories, whatever, and you weren't passing me. We turned one corner. I was like, oh, we got out of the kilometer to go to the top of this thing. And all of a sudden, I see you flying up on the inside. You're like, no electric bike's getting me this time. And much to my dismay, everyone around me was cheering you on, not even knowing you. Go on, get that electric bike, get the electric bike. Poor person on an electric bike just motor along, and then it bothers them because it's very easy going to hit an electric bike. And there you are trying to fucking fly up and try and catch them. You're like, challenge accepted.
Malls Gap is what everyone has the fear of because it's the last climb pretty much of the last big climb of the cycle. And I was sticking with the group because there was a few that were so afraid of it. They were nervous, and I was just trying to encourage them, keep going. And I seen you trailing off. I was like, oh, that bad. And I was dying to go, but I was conscious to just keep the group ticking over, keep them relaxed so they weren't burning out. And then the electric bike came past me. It was an elderly couple. God love them, on their holidays, French or something. I don't know. They had a nice tan. They weren't from Kerry anyway. And they came by at some speed on electric bikes. And Katie's dad said to me again, it's like, Eric, fucking electric bikes again. I was like, no. So sure enough, took off after them up Malls Gap. And I was drafting behind the woman on the electric bike, but obviously she could hear me growling and spitting, like eating away behind her. So she kept getting a fright and looking over her shoulder. She didn't understand I was drafting. She thought I was trying to rob her or something. So she pulled in, But her husband kept going. I was like, no.
get
And then I came around the corner and there was you. And everyone was like, go on,
catch the bike.
I'm gonna show these. And it was only when I got to the top of the hill, I was like, Jesus Christ, I went pretty quick up that hill.
I was going. I think I averaged around 16 kilometers now going up that hill. And I was passing people out, but I'm by no means a good cyclist. And I was like, I'm doing all right here, passing people out. But you were just boom, gone. I was like, son of a. And of course, like the pedal slide for a second goes, I'll catch him. And I was like, no, you won't. Well, flying it to the top. But like Moss Gap, yes, it is a challenging hill, but it is a very, because it's good 6K gradual or maybe a little bit longer. I think it's near 8K. It's a gradual incline to the top, but you just got to keep the head down and just keep moving the pedals and just keep taking over to get there. Like, I think people make a bigger deal than actually is.
They scaremonger it a lot more. Caha Pass on the other side of Kenmare is a lot difficult when you're coming from the Bear Peninsula over. That has steeper climbs on it. Mall's Gap is just a slog. It's just 8 kilometers of uphill, but it's not the worst. You just pick your gear, stick it out, and just keep going. That's it. You just look at the road in front of you.
And you've had a big feed and all right before that. You've rested the legs. Yeah. Right? Like, the perfect spot for like, okay, bit of food, bit of chit chat, whatever. And it's like, right, grind out the 8K, and then you argue with me, but I think it's all downhill from there into Killarney.
No, it isn't. Because if you cycle beside anyone who was struggling up Mall's Gap, and as soon as you hit another hill, it's like, I thought you said it was downhill. It's like, no, it trends down.
It goes downhill.
But it's but yeah, no, it was brilliant. That was the second electric bike I raced. Another electric bike came past us on the way into Kenmare, about 10K from Kenmare, and we just had the punctures. And I was starting to think I wasn't going to keep waiting. I was kind of preempting something might happen, so I'd rather be able to come back with resources or find someone at the stop that can come back out.
Yeah.
And so I kind of just kept going, left you guys back behind, and then an electric bike came past me. And Jimmy was with me again. He was like, go on, Eric, get him. I was like, oh, God. In fairness, he came by and I caught up with him. He was doing 40 kilometers an hour on an electric bike. It was impressive. But then another guy like joined in this little race with the electric bike with me. And then I was like, oh, we have competition. So we were hearing it, the two of us, and he kept passing me. And then I just sit in his tail for a little while. And then I just go alongside him and just look at him just to remind him that I was still there and pass him out. And then be like, do you want to sit in my wheel? Like, real. I was so ego. It was terrible. And it was just like, yeah, I'll give you a break for a minute. He was not happy that I was, because he kept trying to drop me. Like, he kept trying to put on the power to break away from me. And I just sprinted on after him. So, and then the other hill out of Waterville, I pushed up that hill. I think I came past you on that one, and I said, I'll get some. Yeah,
when you're at the top, you're like, I'll get some training in, and off you went.
Yeah, so even for me, for what was a long day in the saddle and the heart rate, we had arguments over the heart rate as well, because I spent so long in lower zones. I was like, how is my Garmin not saying I'm an animal? But it's but even in those stages, to still have the capacity to get that 8-9 minute burst up a hill, the 5 to 10K race with your man and the bike, and Mall's Gap when you're supposed to be at the worst stage of the race, to then race an electric bike up the hill like a clown. I think I must have passed about 250 people when I started racing.
Oh, the Mall's Gap, easily. Easily a lot of people, because it is just, most people are just grinding in that stage. And because for most people, it is just that leisurely cycle, and they're not used to doing the hills. Not that I'm used to. Well, I'm actually used to doing hills where I am, but not for that long. But it is that just get this part over and done with, and then there's a load of people at the top of Mall's Gap, and you're all just chilling out there, and you kind of know, okay, it's almost over now.
So nothing for ego or anything, because there was no real hero stuff. If I was holding 35 kilometers an hour for the whole ring of Kerry, that's impressive. But I wasn't. I was doing 20 odd, the odd 30, the odd 40, like averaging 25. But for me, it was just nice to get those little bursts, and then watch the heart rate recover, and then just settle back into a leisurely cycle, and that's what it was. It was a leisurely cycle.
So short intervals in here there. But one of the reasons I don't really get into cycling is because if I'm running, something happens when I'm running, it's usually an injury stuff, that runs over. And it's usually either my fault or a hamstring or quad went, whatever. But in the bike, a lot can go wrong. And a lot went wrong at some stage. The funny thing about it is we got here very late. You were here a couple of hours before I was with Aaron. And for some reason, you just took I won't say a shine to Aaron's bike, but you're like, there's something up with your back wheel. And you were spinning it a bit, and it just kept stopping. It was like Inception, where they had that little thing where it spins and stopped very fast, and then yours kept spinning, like wouldn't stop spinning, like we're in a dream. And then we were between Sneem and Kenmare. I'm probably pronouncing that word wrong, but anyway, everything was going swimmingly, and all of a sudden it was like it was Dallas in 1962 again, the big bang, and then fucking in goes Aaron straight towards the corner. I don't know how he held onto the bike, but the tire just went out. But what happened was, it wasn't just a tube, it wasn't just a puncture, there was actual hole in the tire. If that was to happen to yourself on the road, is there a certain repair kit you're supposed to have? Did we talk about? I don't remember talking about this last week. Or is that just one of those where it is just near the end of the race?
Yeah, because I remember saying, so there's the little things you can get in Decathlon. Mine are yellow, but they're just for helping you take the wheel off. Do you remember?
We talked about that, all right. Yeah, we talked about doing the tubes.
Yeah,
but like Aaron had a tear in his tire. Like I've had punctures before, but it's literally you have the plastic things take off the tire, new tube, pump it up, and away you go.
Yeah,
but he tore the tire.
Now, I had a lot of problems with the entire thing of Aaron, because Aaron only 2 weeks ago put in his bike for a service and paid a lot of money for it.
Yeah.
But the walls of the tire on his bike that burst were, I'd say the tire must have been 6 or 7 years old. Like there's no way you should be putting in a bike for a service and I'm not changing that tire or recommending a change of that tire. So that was problem number one I found. The back wheel was buckled before he even started. Yeah, so it was kind of rubbing on the brakes, and I was thinking maybe loosen the brakes a little bit wider, so at least the wheel's not rubbing every time. So that's where I had my first problem with that. If you're going to be taking on a cycle like this, make sure you're roadworthy. And I mean that because you don't want to be on the side of the road. Punctures happen.
Yeah, you can't do a puncture like that. And look, I'll call them out because I went to them twice now and did a brilliant job on the bike and no issue. I went to Specialized on the N7 and they looked after it so much. They were kind of like the bottom, and because it's the girlfriend's bike, she got a kick out. I was like, please advise the customer to look after the bike more and start cleaning it regularly because it was an absolute shite going into them. But yeah, before a cycle, this is like straight in. And in fairness to Aaron, he did go to service. The service just did a really poor job because his very next cycle the spoke went and he had to like look after the gears and stuff himself. And like, what's the point in getting the thing serviced? It's like the same with a car. You get your car serviced, all of a sudden you're doing oil and filter change and stuff afterwards. But the tire went on it. It was buckled. Yourself and Jimmy fixed it. I took the Instagram video, so I played my role. There's not too many people trying to do the same thing. I had a different role to play, so I did that. And then it was like, can we get from where we are?
Yeah, so we had an option. In fairness, I don't know, the bike gods were looking at us
right away.
A car pulled up, and he offered to bring him back to Sneem, to get his bike fixed, but that was 7k back the way. So
we're not going back.
Part of the mentality I had was, we're in a group, the group's not going backwards. So if Aaron goes back, he's now on his own for the rest of the day, and we still have I think 70 kilometers to go.
Around 60 or so, yeah.
So I thought that wasn't the best decision, considering we only had 19 kilometers to Kenmare at this point.
Yeah.
And then we had a tire repair kit, so we patched it, pumped it, and we said, let's take a chance and keep moving towards Kenmare. And then if it happens again, then we're closer to Kenmare. Someone will offer to bring us to Kenmare.
Yeah.
So that was the thought process. And sure enough, it was pretty close.
3k out.
3k
and
out.
Then I was behind Aaron just in case, and all of a sudden I heard a complete opposite effect this time. Instead of a loud bang, it was just a... I was like, wow, how close are we? And there's a girl on the side of the road just handing out cookies and stuff from outside the house. I was like, how far are we away from Kenmare? She's like, only 3 kilometers. I was like, 3 kilometers. Me there just slowly strolling the bike behind him and him walking. He got very thick at that stage. But then I said we were on a kilometer or so to go, and then you turned up with a big tire around your neck. Save the day, the wheel of fortune. And then fixed his bike and made a way in. But I have to say this about them. When you get in there, there's a bike repair van, whatever it is there, and your man looked after Aaron so fast to get the new tire, the thing not buckling anymore. He had all that sorted before I went in and got sandwiches for the two of us and back out again. It was just like, he's back good to go on the road, and no issues with the bike since. He struggled in hills, but no issues in terms of what they did to fix it. And it's great that they have those services throughout the course. So if you are thinking about doing a course like this, the fact that your man came over within seconds, and we were lucky because the vans can't be everywhere on 170k, but like within seconds of him doing it, someone was over check, was he okay? And there was people helping other people along the way in terms of like changing tires and stuff. So what I talk about, I don't like getting into cycling because of all the external stuff can go wrong, that it's out of control. If you get a good service on the bike, there's people there for you as well. I would still thoroughly recommend doing the ring Kerry, getting a couple of cycles in beforehand, but you will get through it. Yeah. Just start early.
Yeah. A lot of people like, sorry, to come back to that point, what you should bring, one, they're just little aids, they're little plastic aids that can help you get the tire off the rim. Then I only carry a tube in them. But what I've bought, so there's two types of tires you can get. You can get like racing tires, or you can get, they're like a Gator tire. Now there's different brand names, but essentially they're just layered stronger.
The Gator tires?
Yeah. So there's call it 3+. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
The racing ones are real thin, slick. Do you know, they're like the slicks essentially for Formula 1. But these are a heavier duty tire that if a sharp stone or a thorn or anything goes in, you're likely to burst the tube, not the tire. So what happened to him was the tire was goosed. So we patched the tire. It just didn't last the 20k. But that's just one thing to do, because personally I don't carry a tire with me. If the tire goes, I'm gone.
Yeah.
And that's just something I accept. But I can change a tube in 5 minutes. I'm not going to cry too much about 5 minutes on a long distance. But it can be done. So it's just one thing. And I always have a set of Allen keys. So I carry the Allen keys, a tube, and the aid to help me get my bike. And I have the repair patch kit in the bag as well. That's all I carry. Now, a lot of people were doing it with backpacks. And if you're doing it with backpacks, there's no harm putting a new tire in your backpack.
Like I did it last year, the backpack, and not this year, just because I carried more food and stuff on me last year, where I think you can get away with. I know you had the tablets and stuff there and all the rest, but I could easily have put them on my back if I was a bit more prepared, or a bit of food or whatever. But it's I don't think you necessarily need to have the bag or the extra weight, and as well as that, it's sweaty on your back and stuff as well. It's not nice, especially with that heat and all the rest. The last thing you need is the big sweaty backpack, and you're not using that much justified. You're not going to be putting water there, because you need to have two water things on your bike, one for eyes open, one for regular. Yeah,
put an extra cage on your bike, put two waters on your bike. And some people I seen were using bottles that were like 300 ml.
Yeah,
I had two 950 ml. Now that's 2 kg of extra weight, but I had 2 liters of water on my bike.
What you don't do as well is in one of those cages, you put Lucozade bottle in. I had Princess Mario with Lucozade falling out of our cage and come right across the road at me. And look, I don't know how, but it went between the tires, and I just caught it right that I went straight over the middle of it, and I was perpendicular and somehow didn't go. But as that happened, I was like, whoa! And then Princess Mario, whatever her name is,
Princess Peach.
I was more of a Crash Team Racing kind of guy anyway, Sony. So I want to say Crash Bandicoot references, but everyone gets the Mario Kart more. Yeah, she the worst thing she did was she stopped. She heard me go, whoa! And she knew her Lucozade bottle was gone. And of course, when she stopped, she was on the left-hand side of the road, and everyone kind of went straight into the poor girl, and off she went into a ditch. Now I had to pull in a little bit later, and it was like, actually, no, I heard she's okay. She just we weren't going too fast. It was a straight. I just come out of the petrol station, so that's why I was looking at going too fast. I was just blessed that whatever way I hit the Lucozade bottle, and it was fairly full, that I went straight over it, and the tire wasn't gone or anything. And I was like, well, I catch up with the rest of the guys. Nah, I go my own leisurely pace. So you're talking about flying down 42 kilometers an hour. I'm a good 5-6K back going, I'll see them when I see them. But like we do miss, like you will be missing out on people during the whatever happens or longer breaks or whatever. Like you just have your meeting points. Okay, I knew you guys were going to be at the meeting point at 6K. I'll see you when I see you, and then we'll all meet up and go again. Like there will be that different breaks for whatever reason. So it's, if anyone's thinking about doing it, I definitely recommend doing it as a group. It's a phenomenal one to do.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it is leisurely. There's one other thing that I would recommend to people. It's leisurely, but, and this is the but, it starts at 6. You don't necessarily have to start at 6.
No.
But don't be starting at 8.
So, yeah, I mean, so to your point, when you finish up, you get your medal, whatever, and there's a great atmosphere to finish. Like we finished around 4:30, which is late enough because we had a puncture and everything else that went on, but there's still good crack. They just finished the Kerry match, which wasn't that much from atmosphere because Kerry had already won, so they weren't even cheering up in the final whistle. It was like, oh, we were supposed to win. But we're having a few beers and the tables were all full, and they're only starting to clear out a little at that stage. But by the time we left around 7, after 7 o'clock, everything had cleared.
The DJ stopped playing. The bars had done last service.
Yeah.
And this was at the time when the 8 o'clock starters were coming in.
Yeah, so we were like cycling through the finish line, going back through Clarny, heading back to where we're staying. And you could still see the odd person coming in. And it's awful for them because they're coming into not so much cheers and everything else that comes with it, that nice little atmosphere, or even have couldn't even have a point afterwards. Last orders were done like in, and like there's like photo booths and stuff. You want to get your picture done with the finish of things, or they're selling other merchandise of the Ring Kerry jersey. All that's kind of locked up and gone. It's kind of like, oh, I came to the after party. It's like being a barman doing a cleanup at night, and then you walk into the pub being like, oh fuck,
yeah,
you know, it's
sorry, we're closed.
Sorry, yeah,
no, it would. I just would recommend, like, if you think you're gonna be a little bit longer or taking your time a little bit more,
which you
should do, but just make that effort to start at 6.
Yeah, start at 6 or 7.
So that you can be part of that fun at the end, because that's what you do. That's what you pay your money. Okay, some people probably didn't care. They crossed the finish line and just went straight home. They just wanted to cycle the Ring of Kerry. But when we passed these people, they looked like they were people in a group who were doing something that probably would have liked that finish line experience.
And it's not like all the elite start at 6 or 7. Like there's different stages during that race where like you were getting passed out by, you can see all the right gear and stuff they all have on them. Like, and you're talking about 4, 5, 6 hours into the event, they're passing you out. So some of those elite guys are starting at 7, 8, 9. It's not like a marathon where the fastest groups start first and then slower. Like, oh, I can't start at 6 or 7 because other people are starting. Like, you rock up and start that line anytime you want. Yeah. So you're better off starting early and like making a day of it.
Yeah, make a day. Like we took a nearly 40-minute stop probably in the 60K.
Easily, yeah.
For you. Then we took an ice cream at the top of the climb out of Waterville, and we sat there for a few minutes. We would have sat longer, only the wind was so strong.
Yeah, it was getting cold.
And then we rocked on down the hill in Kenmare because of the puncture and all. We were there for another 45 minutes, and we took another little stop in Sneem just for a little top up and a chat. And we had another puncture stop. So, like, all in all, we very much took our time.
And it's easier to do it that way as well because, it's like every 30K, it was like 30K small break, 30K was a 6K point with a big feed station, longer break then, top of the hill, little break then, with a little break 120K, then 140 came there, long break, little break at the top of Moll's Gap, and then it's the last bit into Killarney, and then it's a long break from there because you're done.
And that's it. And look, we rocked in. There was probably 2,000 people in the car park. We did well to get a table, and that was the thing. We were 3 deep at the bar. Like there was crack, slagging, was joking. If you're doing these events, try and get in at that peak time when there is an atmosphere. And there is something to talk about, and there's you're seeing people and there's a bit of buzz, because even the finish line was about 50, 60 meters long of people 3 or 4 deep, trying to wave at people and stuff, like, but then there was nobody there when the last were coming in. There was still the staff, don't get me wrong, the staff were there, but most people had seen their friends and relatives and had gone at that stage,
the buzz is not there quite as much.
So it just there's few things you said yesterday, there's few things we don't do right, but we crossed that start line at 10-7, and we finished at what I think was the perfect time, and to give us 2 hours of après cycle, and be the last ones at the bar, and then cycle on home for a Chinese and a well-earned bed.
Geez, had we been there any earlier, I don't think I would have made it home on the bike. I hit my limit. I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah, it was fantastic, and it's a great day, and people are very supportive on it.
Yeah.
And the staff, the guards, everyone who's really on the course, really, really good and really looking out for people. So yeah, no, absolutely phenomenal. It's one I have to say I would add to the diary for a yearly event, because it's just a good training day. It's just a good day out. I'd say that now. If it was raining, I don't know if I'd be sitting here
driving down on the Friday evening. I seen the rain, and I was actually getting close to Killarney. I couldn't even see the top of the hills. It was just all fog and stuff. I'm like, oh god. But it's no, look, that's the chance you take in anything in Ireland. But it was very, very, very enjoyable. A lot of giggles, and we just had a good time, and everyone learned a little bit more about cycling and group cycling and looking out for each other, calling holes and all these little things that, because who doesn't, because you'll be cycling behind someone next to a pothole and you're like, mother. Sorry. So, I can see it, you can see it.
But so absolutely excellent, and there was a medal. And it wasn't wooden. Yeah, stick that cork. and
there was loads of water.
Stick that email about the water you sent out as well. Yeah, absolute pathetic. But anyway, we'll intro that on next week's podcast. But overall, absolutely excellent. And for those who think it is grueling, I got my 10-mile run in this morning and felt good. So it was actually a nice shakeout. So it's a great training day. It's a great training weekend. Where we stayed is absolutely fabulous. But I can't add much more to the event other than stressing, take it in bite-sized chunks, and it's doable for everyone. Some can show up on the day, but I wouldn't recommend. I'd recommend get a couple of cycles in before you do it, because it's not at a strenuous pace.
Yeah, I mean, the only way I could put it, and I would never recommend it because it's one habit I can't understand, but like 30k in, I saw 2 guys pulled over. I go, they all right? I looked over, and there was one lad on his bike just, having a cigarette, and I'm like, lad. Just all fitness levels and stuff is probably the most PC way of putting it. Yeah. Where at the event, including those on the electric bike. But I think we've pretty much summed up the entire journey of the Ring of Kerry. It is a nice one to have a good group going each year for it. If you have that, it definitely will be one I would stick to the training calendar. So hopefully get a chance to do it next year. But that's pretty much it for me. Unless you have anything else to add this week's episode.
No, and if you don't have a group, don't be worried, because people like us, we picked up 2 people with us, and you'll meet people, you'll talk to people, you'll join in with different groups who are going at a similar pace. So don't be afraid to come down and just make friends, just chat to people. Everyone wants to talk on the bike to pass kilometers, and it's the easiest way. 10 kilometers will click past and you'll have found out all about someone, and you'll watch all ding and you'll be like, oh my god, we've only 10k to go. And that's what it's all about, and that's what's really good about the cycle. But again, the roads being pretty much closed off, a couple of really silly people decided to drive the Ring of Kerry on that day, which was just stupid.
There's enough signs there for them not to drive that day.
So, but absolutely fantastic. You're not as at risk with vehicles and driving. It's quite safe. So absolutely fantastic. 100% would recommend. And thanks for all the organisers and everyone who did it. And we'll look forward to the next one.
That's pretty much it then. Myself and Eric will wrap this one up. Thank you very much for listening to this week's episode of the Anything Relate podcast. That's it for myself and Eric. Take care.
Bye.